Yeah, so up next we had a recap of Stephanie stripping Bryan of the title, and she brings up Cena interrupting her last week, getting involved with the Shield this week. Triple H says it doesn't matter because tonight is the last we'll see of the Shield. Vicky Guerrero comes in then with a bottle of champagne, and she wants to celebrate Brad Maddox and Daniel Bryan being gone, but she sneezes on Stephanie and Triple H. I feel like this was a little bit of a nod to the Smarks, because if you keep up with dirt sheets, you know that Vince McMahon sees it as weak if you sneeze in his presence. Um,
Ah,
yeah, then Stephanie slaps the champagne out of Vicky's hands, threatens to fire her again, and tells her to get out.
yeah. Stephanie did not take kindly to being sneezed, and yet this is one of those times where I thought her authoritative outburst was legitimate. That was gross. So, yeah.
Whatever. Okay. My only thing is, how can you help when you sneeze?
Yeah, but then again, it's the authority. I bet you they know that. They just want any reason to exercise their power, so.
All right, so we have our six-man tag main event next. We've already pretty much talked a lot about this, and the most annoying part is that the winning team won, but it's, in my opinion, excusable because it was Reigns pinning Harper rather than Cena pinning anybody or Bray eating the pin from anybody.
Right, right. So yeah, nothing really more to say than that. I mean, the announcers do, kind of play up that they did win. They celebrate together. Cena gives his nod of approval to Reigns and Ambrose. We cut to one point to Triple H and Seth Rollins, I guess, having a little strategy meeting, but it's completely inaudible. We don't hear anything they're saying. We don't know any future plans for either SmackDown this Friday or Raw next week. So yeah, that's pretty much where the show ends.
I wonder if we're going to get another Michael Cole interview with Triple H this week.
Probably. That seems to be like a weekly address
Yeah,
that
I
they
know, but
do.
my only thing is Michael Cole already had his weekly address. It just happened to be with Seth Rollins.
Right.
So that's my question. Regardless, I mean, that's pretty much it. We saw Triple H and Seth talking backstage, seeing the nods to Reigns and Ambrose. Raw goes off the air with the three of them celebrating. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so with that said, do you want to get right into our next segment?
Absolutely.
High spots and low shots. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, my low shot, I'm going to say my low shot, Zack Ryder.
Yeah.
Seriously, he is starting up a new YouTube channel. I don't even know if that's continuing, to be honest. I haven't checked in a while. If it is, it's still not working. If he's given up on it, then that even tells me that Ryder's given up hope on a career resurgence. And yeah, this is the fruit he's bearing right now, being squashed by guys like Rusev, and that's the only TV time he gets, and I'm sure he's probably grateful for it. So just a bad night for the Long Island douchebag.
Yeah, my low shot is the Wyatt family because not only did they kind of battle the Shield to a draw when it was 3-on-2, but then they find out, oh, crap, the Shield's partner against us is going to be the most OP guy in the company. We're kind of screwed. And then they lost to that team anyway.
Yeah, that rebirth. At least, it was Luke Harper eating the pin. I just hope in the first one-on-one basis where Bray competes, and it's probably going to be against Cena, which just irritates me on so many levels, he wins. Please let him win. But yeah, I completely understand your reasoning. These guys had a bad night. Leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but it is what it is.
All right, who's your high spot?
My high spot, you know what? I'm going to say my high spot is Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns.
So the
They
remnants of the Shield.
the remnants of the Shield. They bounced back strong. They took care of 3MB despite, 3MB's cockiness that, oh, we can hold our own. And they did come up on the winning end. I mean, how can you not when your partner is John Cena? But more importantly, they had convictions. They knew that they were going to take a pound of flesh with Seth Rollins. They knew they were going to get their comeuppance all in due time. Their confidence hasn't been shaken. And again, like I said, the only justifiable thing for me about them winning is it shows Seth physically, you know what, you may have been the architect, but we can think and fight for ourselves, and we proved it tonight. So they earned their stripes for sure.
Yeah. All right. Man, who is my high spot? This is a difficult decision. I almost want to agree with you, but I don't want to copy, so I'm going to... Oh, man. You know what? Oh, man, this is really difficult. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say my high spot's the Authority.
All right.
Because They got to do what they've wanted to do for the last 2 months. They've got the WWE World Title off Daniel Bryan. They basically got him out of their hair, and on top of that, they have quite the confident new recruit because Seth Rollins, who I guess you could consider to be a part of the Authority, cut a very good promo tonight that was really helpful, really explained a lot, just really, really good stuff. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, oh, and Randy Orton, who's technically also a part of that faction, got an instant ladder match while on vacation. So yeah, props to Orton, props to Triple H and Stephanie, both getting what they wanted, and props to Seth Rollins for the great promo.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have to agree with your reasoning about the Authority. In fact, I think the Authority is an excellent choice on the merit of finally getting the title off Daniel Bryan alone. And it doesn't make Daniel Bryan look weaker because he had to surrender the championship like so many other guys before him. Batista, Edge, guys that were in his same level of over. So if anything, it's almost like a blessing in disguise that this happened to Bryan because I know people were like, is Bryan getting too OP or the fans going to turn on him? But I think this gets all of his sympathy right back. So
Definitely.
so I think his struggle back to the mountaintop, that's going to be a nice story. I think a story that everybody's going to be sucked into because they view Bryan as the legitimate champion, and we're going to have a ladder match to get a new world champion. So fun times, despite all the sad things going on.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and move on.
Our Raw request. And you know what? You've made some excellent points tonight in all of our segments, so I want to know what your Raw request is.
My Raw request is to pick the guys that you want to be featured and pick the guys that you want to be relevant and relegate everyone else to NXT. Because if you're not going to use guys like Xavier Woods and Big E, we will happily take them back on NXT.
Oh, without a doubt. So pretty much your Raw request is exactly what Triple H's sentiment allegedly was regarding debuting new talents. Do not debut them unless you have something for them to do.
And don't keep them on the main roster unless you have something for them to do. I mean, NXT is brilliant because they have a consistent roster rotation. They have somebody on this week that everybody loves that then you won't see for a week or two. And they have somebody that won't show up this week that will show up next week. And they can keep that rotation going even with a bigger roster, which is one of the best things to me. And hey, you know what? If you really want to take it a step further, relegate a bunch of guys that aren't on TV. I mean, I already mentioned Big E and Rusev, or Big E and Xavier Woods. Relegate other guys that aren't on TV often down to NXT and give it 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's why, even though the matches weren't necessarily the greatest, I do have to applaud WWE for making Brodus Clay a temporary title contender for the NXT Championship against Adrian Neville. I think they wanted to tell that David versus Goliath story with him. They thought Brodus Clay was a good choice, and I can't help but agree. He got to actually win some matches, get TV time, which is always wonderful. And yeah, that was a great utilization of Clay. I almost wish he was still in NXT, working with the other talents. In fact, no wishing about it. I do want him to be there because I feel like he's wasting away otherwise. And yeah, same goes for Xavier Woods and all these other talents. When you don't have something for them to do, give them to NXT because, like Ashton said, their infrastructure allows it so that talent wouldn't even get stale. They wouldn't be down our throats, and it would give you more time to really develop and hash things out for them. So I wholeheartedly co-sign onto your Raw request this week.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's no point of guys like Big E and Woods, and I mean, even if you want to go a step further and say guys like, say, I don't know, maybe Santino, or even since he faced him tonight, Swagger. Like, what purpose is Jack Swagger providing right now that, say, somebody like Corey Graves wouldn't be able to provide better?
Actually, dude, it's funny you mentioned Swagger because if they were to bring Swagger down to NXT, a feud with Neville would make perfect sense because he's an Englishman. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, do some roster trading. Take the bottom guys from the main roster and put them on NXT, and bring the top guys from NXT up to the main roster. You need to shuffle things around a little bit.
Now, here's my question to you, Ashton, with your Raw request, because, again, I happily co-sign onto it. I really like it. Once that trade-up has been complete, would it be temporary on both sides? Or would you just have it like maybe you would get the lower main roster guys back to the main roster eventually, but you'd still keep the NXT guys there, NXT guys?
I think that you need to have a consistent rotation going, but not just to do the rotation. Like, send guys down to NXT that aren't doing anything on the main roster right now, and bring guys from NXT that look absolutely dominant, like they're going to absolutely thrive on the main roster, up. And then after 6, maybe 9, maybe even a year, as far as months go, reevaluate. And if you have guys that you've recently brought up from NXT to the main roster that haven't done anything or that have tried to do something but haven't been able to get over, send them back down to NXT. Or if you relegated somebody down to NXT and they're really just like they found their niche at NXT like Big E did. Well, I shouldn't say that because they never really relegated him. But hey, Bray Wyatt was on the main roster before he got sent back to FCW. Bo Dallas was on the main roster and got sent back down to FCW. That's something that can happen. Guys can be on the main roster, get sent back down to developmental, find their niche, and become great at it. So yeah, I don't think that you should send somebody down permanently or bring somebody up permanently. I think that it should be open gateways.
Yeah, definitely. I love the infrastructure of NXT, how they have like a revolving door going on. I think the main roster would greatly benefit from something like that. And I would even do it.
But
I wouldn't
that's
even
the
leave.
thing, dude. They don't think that they can afford to go a week without having Sheamus or Cena or The Shield on TV.
And you know what? The shame of it is, first of all, I agree with you. Second of all, I would almost feel like going 3 hours. You know, with that kind of time slot, it almost necessitates the revolving door structure. Because to go that long, and yeah, more guys have gotten exposure. Like Sandow is on TV weekly. Depending on how that time's being used is another matter entirely, but he is getting time. But I do feel like things would just feel so much fresher with that kind of rotation that NXT does have. So I do agree with you. Are there any other points you want to make on your Raw request?
Nope.
All right, well, my Raw request, it's going to be fairly straightforward. Keep up the booking of at least one of your mid-card champions like you did tonight in these higher level spots. Because you know what, even though I would have preferred Barrett in the Money in the Bank ladder match, I do like that at least one mid-card champion got to be in there, despite the fact that we did also say that the believability isn't necessarily there because they're holding a title. But, I just like the fact that they're having representation in a high-profile match like this because it shows, hey, if you hold the belt, these are the kind of opportunities that present themselves to you. And I think that's strong booking for the championship as well as the champion. So I have to give kudos to WWE for that.
All right, I like it. All right, dude, let's close this baby out.
All right, guys, this has been Raw. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans by wrestling fans on the web today. I'm John. That was my cohort in commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube and comment on Tweetoff. We will see you again for our NXT review. I honestly have no clue what's happening. Tyson Kidd versus Adrian Neville for the NXT Championship may happen, but much like Evolution, to us, it's a mystery.